The healthy oil that is silently clogging your arteries for decades. Soybean oil has been sold as a modern, light, and heart-friendly choice. It arrived on shelves with golden labels and words like rich in omega, zero cholesterol, natural, and millions of families, especially seniors concerned about their health, traded lard, olive oil, and butter for this yellow liquid that promised longevity. But the truth that modern medicine has already proven is exactly the opposite. Soybean oil is now one of the main culprits behind inflammation and clogged arteries in people over 60. What seemed healthy has become the invisible poison of the modern kitchen. With every spoonful you put in the pan, you are creating a micro layer of inflammation inside your blood vessels. Inflammation that doesn't hurt, but corrodes the walls of the arteries slowly, until one day the body takes its toll. And the worst part, most people still believe they are doing the right thing. Soybean oil is extracted from highly processed grains, refined with chemicals, and heated to extremely high temperatures. During this process, the natural fatty acids become deformed, generating what we call invisible trans fats, altered molecules that the body does not recognize. And when they enter the bloodstream, the body tries to defend itself, inflaming the arteries. This is the first step of silent arterial clogging, the one that causes no symptoms until it's too late. In the next few minutes, I, Dr. Richard Hale, cardiologist trained at Harvard and Mayo Clinic, will show you, in a simple and clear way, what soybean oil does inside your blood. You will understand how it alters good cholesterol, hardens the arteries, and increases the risk of heart attack and stroke, even in those who have never smoked, never drank, and have always taken care of themselves. And before we continue, I want to ask you for one important thing. Comment here your age and the city from which you are watching me. This way, I can understand how many seniors are trying to take care of their heart, but are being deceived by the false idea of healthy vegetable oil. Because taking care of your heart is not just controlling blood pressure or sugar, it's understanding what you put on your plate every day. And it is precisely at this point that soybean oil hides. It is in almost everything. In pans, in sauces, in fried foods, and even in fit foods. In the next few minutes, you will discover why the body of someone over 60 reacts much more aggressively to this oil, and how, even without pain, the heart suffers in silence. What you are about to hear may completely change the way you see your kitchen, and perhaps save your heart. What changes in the body after 60, and why soybean oil becomes toxic at this age. After 60, the body starts to function at a different pace. The metabolism slows down, the arteries lose elasticity, the blood circulates with more effort, and each cell needs more care to continue living. At this stage, what was previously tolerated by the body begins to become dangerous, and soybean oil, which once seemed harmless, begins to act as a true silent corrosive inside the arteries. To understand why this happens, it is necessary to remember that the human body is made of fats. The brain, the cell membranes, the hormones, everything depends on them. But not all fat is the same. Natural and stable fats, such as those that come from olive oil, coconut, avocado, and even animal lard, are recognized by the body as pure energy. Highly processed fats, such as those in soybean oil, reach the body in a form that it does not fully recognize. The body tries to use them, but ends up getting confused. And when this confusion happens inside an aging artery, it has serious consequences. After 60 years, the wall of blood vessels is no longer as elastic as before. It becomes more rigid, drier, more susceptible to small microscopic cracks. And it is precisely in these micro fissures that the oxidized molecules of soybean oil settle. The body, when trying to repair these small lesions, sends cholesterol to the site, and thus begin the first deposits of fat. They are invisible at first, but over time they turn into atheroma plaques, which reduce blood flow and increase the risk of heart attack or stroke. Soybean oil is composed for the most part of polyunsaturated fatty acids, especially omega-6, linoleic acid. In small quantities it is useful, but in excess, and that is exactly what happens in modern diets, omega-6 generates chronic inflammation. And when there is more omega-6 than omega-3 in the blood, as occurs in those who use soybean oil every day, the body enters a permanent inflammatory state. It is as if the blood becomes irritated, attacking the very walls of the arteries. This constant inflammation is what medicine calls endotheliopathy, the silent disease of aging arteries. It causes no pain, does not change the heartbeat, does not cause fever, but it is behind almost 80% of cardiovascular problems in seniors. And the root of this inflammation in many cases is not genetic nor emotional, it is dietary. It is in the pan, in the oil used for sautéing, frying, or seasoning. The elderly body also has less antioxidant capacity. This means that it cannot neutralize the free radicals generated by heating soybean oil. These unstable molecules oxidize good cholesterol, HDL, and deform bad cholesterol, LDL, making it stickier. And it is exactly this oxidized cholesterol that sticks to the wall of the arteries, clogging them little by little. In addition, the liver of someone over 60 is already working at its limit. It needs to deal with medications, supplements, and often with poor digestion. When soybean oil arrives, it turns into a chemical overload. The liver tries to break down its molecules, but part of them escapes and enters the blood without being completely processed. It is the beginning of silent biochemical chaos, the point where the body looks good, but is inflaming from the inside. And what aggravates everything is that the senior often repeats this process 3 times a day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. A drizzle of oil for the egg, a sauté, a light fry, a cake. It seems little, but it is enough to keep the body in a state of continuous aggression. And while the habit seems common, the heart and arteries fight in silence, not to give in. In the next few minutes, I will show you the hidden truth behind the soybean oil advertisement, the myth that transformed an industrial byproduct into healthy food. You will understand how it arose, who financed it, and why, even today, millions of people believe they are protecting themselves, while, in reality, they are accelerating the aging of their arteries. The hidden truth, how soybean oil was sold as healthy, and why this changed the health of a generation. The history of soybean oil is, in fact, one of the most successful and most dangerous campaigns of the modern food industry. It all started in the last century, when the world began to fear the word fat. At the time, medicine believed that all types of fat raised cholesterol and clogged arteries. Companies took advantage of the collective fear and presented themselves as saviors, offering a new vegetable product, light, modern, supposedly heart-friendly. Thus was born the era of refined oils, and soybean oil became the king of kitchens. But what no one counted on is that, to transform soybeans into oil, it was necessary to submit them to a violent industrial process. The grain is crushed, washed with hexane, a chemical solvent derived from petroleum, heated to extremely high temperatures, and then refined with chemicals to remove the natural smell and color. The result is a bright yellow liquid, clean to the eyes, but chemically dead. No serious doctor today would call this natural food. For decades, large marketing campaigns supported by billionaire companies and even by public bodies hammered the same message: trade lard for vegetable oil, use soy, the oil of the future, and millions of families obeyed, believing they were doing the best for their heart. But while lard was demonized, rates of heart disease increased silently. From the 1980s onwards, the first studies began to emerge linking the consumption of refined vegetable oils, especially soybean oil, to an increase in LDL cholesterol oxidation and inflammation of the arteries. These studies showed something shocking. People who used soybean oil frequently had more markers of inflammation in their blood than those who used butter or olive oil. But these findings were stifled. The industry had a lot to lose, and a lot of money invested in the belief that vegetable oil was the symbol of healthy modernity. The truth is that soybean oil was never created for human consumption. Originally, it was used to make soap and paint. Only after the First World War, when industrial stocks were high and the market shrank, did companies begin to look for new uses and discovered a perfect audience: families who wanted to cook healthily. The problem is that the human body does not recognize soybean oil as natural fat. It sees it as a foreign body, and this chemical incompatibility provokes a chronic inflammatory reaction, something that doesn't hurt, but ages the body from the inside. In older people, this process is even more dangerous, as the immune system already works slowly, and the arteries have little elasticity to resist the attack. When marketing won over science, an entire generation began to trade real food for industrialized products. And the result is before us. Unprecedented increase in cases of high blood pressure, explosion of oxidized cholesterol and high triglycerides, growth in diagnoses of hepatic steatosis, fatty liver, and metabolic syndrome among people who have never been obese. All this was born from the belief that vegetable oil is good for the heart. But modern medicine, with the resources we have today, has already undone this myth. The real enemy is not natural fat. It is deformed fat, the unstable molecule created in the chemical refining of soybean oil. It oxidizes quickly, mixes with cholesterol, and creates a type of glue that sticks to the arteries. And that's where the danger lies. The arterial clogging caused by this oxidation is progressive and silent. It gives no signs until the moment when the blood flow is interrupted, and the result can be fatal. Many heart attacks and strokes in apparently healthy people start precisely with this type of invisible chronic inflammation. Soybean oil doesn't kill in a day. It destroys in silence, in small sips, every day, from the inside out. And when the body finally cries for help, it is too late to erase decades of accumulation. In the next few minutes, I will show you exactly what soybean oil does inside the blood, step by step, from the moment it enters your body to the point where it begins to clog the arteries. You will understand why it is so dangerous and what happens in your cardiovascular system in each phase of this process. The villain revealed what soybean oil does inside your body and how it clogs the arteries. Imagine your arteries as rivers. During youth, these rivers are wide, clean, and of constant flow. But over time, the water becomes slower, the banks harden, and small debris begins to accumulate. Now imagine pouring every day a substance that sticks to the walls of these rivers and transforms the bed into a sticky terrain. This is the effect of soybean oil on the cardiovascular system. When you consume this oil, whether in a fried food, a cake, a bread, or even a sauté, it enters the stomach and goes to the intestine, where its fat molecules are broken down and absorbed by the bloodstream. The problem is that these molecules are not natural. They have undergone chemical refining, bleaching, and heating to high temperatures, losing the structure that the body would recognize as safe. Thus, when they enter the circulation, the body tries to use them, but cannot fit them correctly into the cells. It's like trying to put a puzzle piece that doesn't belong to that game. The body forces the fit, and the result is inflammation. These altered fats are deposited on the inner walls of blood vessels, stimulating the immune system to act. Defense cells arrive at the site, trying to clean the damage, and end up creating micropoints of inflammation. Over time, these inflammations unite, forming plaques of fat and scar tissue, the first stages of arterial clogging. Meanwhile, the liver tries to metabolize the excess of deformed fat, transforming part of it into cholesterol. But there is a crucial detail. Soybean oil oxidizes good cholesterol, HDL, and makes bad cholesterol, LDL, sticky, causing it to attach more easily to the walls of the arteries. This chemical reaction is like the cement that seals the clogging. Each meal rich in soybean oil adds a new layer to this invisible blockage. Another problem is the imbalance between omega-6 and omega-3. Our body was designed to maintain a ratio of 1:1 between these fats. But those who consume soybean oil every day reach ratios of 20:1 or even more. This excess of omega-6 generates constant inflammation in the walls of the vessels. The body lives in a state of alert. And when the blood circulates in this inflamed environment, the arteries become thicker, more rigid, and lose the ability to dilate. It is the beginning of chronic hypertension. Over the years, the thick blood begins to find it difficult to circulate. The heart needs to pump harder, which increases the pressure and wears out the heart muscle. This constant overload causes the left ventricle, the chamber that pumps blood to the body, to increase in size. And this increase, although silent, is the harbinger of heart failure. But the effects of soybean oil do not stop at the arteries. It also reaches the brain. The same oxidized molecules that clog the heart cross the blood-brain barrier, promoting microscopic inflammations in the neurons. Recent studies from the University of California have shown that frequent consumption of soybean oil alters genes linked to memory and insulin production in the brain, which may increase the risk of Alzheimer's and senile dementia. And there is a detail that many ignore. When heated more than once, soybean oil releases toxic aldehydes, substances that damage the walls of the vessels and the DNA of the cells. These compounds do not leave the body quickly. They accumulate, especially in seniors with slow metabolism. That is why the same oil reused in fried foods, pastry shops, or even at home can be 20 times more toxic than the first time it was used. For a young organism, the damage can still be compensated. But in those who have already passed 60, every drop counts. Each spoonful of soybean oil is like a thin layer of toxic varnish that is deposited inside the arteries. The body tries to repair, but cannot cope, and the result is a heavy circulation, a pressure difficult to control, and a heart always tired. What makes this process more treacherous is time. For years, the body seems fine. The exams show acceptable results, and the person believes that everything is okay. But the inflammation advances, silent, accumulating small obstructions, until one day the heart tries to pump blood and finds a wall, and it is at that moment that the heart attack happens. It is not a sudden event. It is the result of a lifetime of invisible micro-damages. In the next few minutes, I will show you what happens inside the body, step by step, from the moment the oil enters to the moment it closes an artery. You will visualize how this process forms, how it progresses, and what the body tries to do to defend itself, and why, after 60, this defense is no longer sufficient. Step by step, how soybean oil clogs the arteries from the inside, and what the body tries to do to defend itself. To understand the true danger of soybean oil, we need to see what happens inside, in silence, inside your body. Every time you use this oil, whether to fry an egg, brown a vegetable, or prepare a seemingly light food, a chain reaction begins, and it happens in the blood, in the arteries, and in the heart. It all starts the moment the oil is heated. The high temperatures deform the fat molecules and produce free radicals, small unstable particles that attack the inner walls of blood vessels. When blood passes through these damaged areas, the body perceives the problem and sends defense cells to try to repair. These cells, called macrophages, arrive with the mission of cleaning the site. But when they find the oxidized cholesterol from soybean oil, they cannot remove it. On the contrary, they end up swallowing the oxidized particles and dying, creating the so-called foam cells. These bodies accumulate and form small fatty plaques, invisible in the first years. As time passes, these plaques become larger and more rigid. The blood needs to make more force to circulate, and the heart needs to pump with more energy. It's like trying to push water through a clogged pipe. The effort increases, the pressure rises, and the system begins to fail. These plaques, called atheromas, are not fixed. They can rupture at any moment, releasing fragments that travel through the blood and block smaller arteries. When this happens in the heart, we call it a heart attack. In the brain, stroke. But the process is not only physical, it is chemical. The excess of omega-6 present in soybean oil increases the production of a substance called prostaglandin E2, which causes inflammation and contraction in blood vessels. At the same time, it reduces the production of prostaglandin E3, responsible for keeping the blood fluid. The result is a thicker, more inflamed blood, more prone to coagulation. And this imbalance is the heart screaming, even if in silence. The liver, which should filter the excess fat, also begins to overload. It tries to convert the fats from soybean oil into energy, but part of them is stored in its cells, forming what we call hepatic steatosis, the famous fatty liver. And when the liver becomes saturated, it begins to release lipids directly into the blood, further amplifying the inflammation of the arteries. It is a chain reaction. What starts in the kitchen ends in the coronaries. The body tries to resist. It releases antioxidants, produces enzymes, mobilizes the reserves of glutathione to neutralize the toxic molecules. But over the years, these natural defenses are exhausted. After 60, the antioxidant capacity of the organism drops by up to 40%, and the cellular damage accumulates without chance of complete reversal. The walls of the arteries become hardened, the endothelium loses elasticity, and the blood flow begins to become turbulent, a perfect terrain for clots. And what is worse, soybean oil interferes with insulin sensitivity, making it difficult to control blood sugar. This increase in circulating glucose causes more oxidation, which accelerates vascular aging. That is why so many seniors develop high blood pressure, diabetes, and altered cholesterol at the same time. These diseases do not arise in isolation. They are daughters of the same inflammatory process that begins with the wrong diet. In the heart, the impact is visible. The coronary vessels, responsible for feeding the heart muscle, narrow little by little. The blood no longer flows with the same freedom, and the heart needs to work double to keep the body alive. Over time, it adapts, grows, thickens the walls, but loses efficiency. And this forced growth is the prelude to congestive heart failure. The heart becomes large, but weak, powerful on the outside, tired on the inside. And all this starts with a spoonful of oil. There is no pain. There is no fever. There is no alert. The body only goes on molding itself to the daily poison, believing that it is being fed. What makes this process even more cruel is that the body tries to heal itself all the time. It warns through the pressure that rises, the tiredness that increases, the digestion that worsens, the feet that swell, the eyes that burn. But we interpret these signs as things of age and continue repeating the same mistake. Soybean oil is not a quick villain. It is a patient assassin. It waits for time to do the service, and when the body is already weakened, it charges everything at once. In the next few minutes, I will show you why the risk increases drastically after 60, even if you consume little. You will understand what changes in the aging arteries, why they become so fragile, and what the heart feels when it tries to push blood through an inflamed body. Why the risk increases after 60, and how the aging arteries react to soybean oil. After 60, the body enters a new phase of life, and with it, the cardiovascular system also changes. The blood continues to run, but no longer runs with the same force. The arteries, which in youth were elastic and vibrant, become drier and hardened, as if time had taken away from them the ability to expand and contract freely. This loss of elasticity is the first step to the natural increase in blood pressure. And it is in this scenario that soybean oil becomes especially dangerous. When the blood needs to cross aging arteries, it finds a narrower path, less flexible, and more susceptible to microscopic cracks. These micro-lesions are open doors to inflammation. In a young body, the organism would repair the damage easily. But after 60, the regeneration process is slow, and each tiny wound on the vascular wall becomes a point of accumulation of oxidized fat, exactly the type of fat abundant in refined soybean oil. In addition, aging reduces the production of nitric oxide, a natural substance that relaxes and dilates blood vessels. With less nitric oxide, the arteries become more tense, and the blood flow becomes turbulent. This turbulent flow increases the friction on the walls of the vessels and facilitates the deposition of oxidized fats, transforming the blood into a true microscopic battlefield. It is the beginning of accelerated arteriosclerosis, which, united with the inflammation provoked by soybean oil, creates the perfect terrain for the silent heart attack. Another factor is the reduction of the antioxidant capacity of the body. After 60, the levels of glutathione, the main natural antioxidant of the organism, fall almost by half. Without this protection, the free radicals produced by soybean oil during cooking attack the cells of the endothelium, the inner lining of the arteries. It is as if time and chemistry united against your heart. Each fried food, each sauté, each drop of reused soybean oil accelerates the internal aging of the arteries. The liver also feels the weight of age. It filters the blood more slowly, metabolizes the fats with more difficulty, and begins to release triglycerides in excess in the circulation. These triglycerides, combined with the cholesterol oxidized by soybean oil, create microcrystals of fat that travel through the blood and lodge in small vessels, especially in the brain, in the kidneys, and in the heart. That is why so many seniors, even without being overweight, develop high cholesterol and fat in the liver. The body is not fat on the outside, it is fat on the inside. Another point little talked about is the role of hormones. With advancing age, there is a natural drop in the levels of estrogen and testosterone, which previously helped to keep the blood fluid and the arteries young. Without this hormonal protection, the blood becomes thicker, slower, more prone to coagulation, and it is precisely at this moment that soybean oil acts as a catalyst, accelerating the formation of thrombi, clots that can block an artery in a matter of minutes. Now imagine this scenario inside the heart. The coronary arteries, responsible for carrying blood to the heart muscle, are already rigid, inflamed, and full of small deposits of fat. The heart, to continue functioning, needs to pump harder. Each beat becomes an effort. Over time, the heart muscle thickens, but loses efficiency. It is the prelude to heart failure, one of the main causes of hospitalization among people over 65 years. And all this happens in silence. There is no fever, there is no pain, there is no apparent symptom. The body only begins to give small signs, a tiredness when climbing stairs, a slight swelling in the feet, a pressure that oscillates without explanation, a sudden dizziness. These are the first warnings that the arteries are becoming aging and inflamed roads. But there is something even more important. The brain also depends on these arteries. And when they harden, the cerebral blood flow decreases. The oxygenation falls, and the risk of microstrokes and cognitive loss increases. Soybean oil, by containing oxidized fatty acids, crosses the blood-brain barrier and causes microscopic inflammations in the neurons, harming memory and reasoning. Therefore, seniors who consume this oil frequently present a greater risk of early dementia and accelerated cognitive decline. The body, after 60, no longer wants effort, it wants balance. But soybean oil does the opposite. It stimulates inflammation, thickens the blood, and makes the work of the heart difficult. And with each meal, this overload accumulates. In the next few minutes, I will show you the most subtle warning signs that the body sends when the arteries begin to clog. Before an exam shows any abnormality, you will understand what to observe in the day-to-day and how the body speaks to you through small symptoms that most ignore, but that in reality are cries for help. The warning signs: how the body warns that the arteries are being clogged before the heart attack. The body never stops warning. The problem is that most of us have unlearned to listen. When the arteries begin to clog, the organism sends subtle, almost silent signs asking for attention. They do not arise suddenly, but accumulate over the months, sometimes years. And those who learn to recognize these signs often avoid the worst. The first warning is tiredness without apparent cause. Climbing a flight of stairs that previously seemed simple begins to require more effort. The heart needs to pump harder to push the blood through rigid and inflamed arteries, and this generates a sensation of weight, of early exhaustion. Many seniors confuse this symptom with lack of physical preparation, but in reality, it is the body fighting against the internal resistance created by soybean oil and the years of vascular inflammation. The second sign is shortness of breath in light situations. The breathing becomes short, mainly after meals or at night. This happens because the heart cannot pump enough blood to oxygenate all the tissues. The lung tries to compensate, and the sensation is that there is a lack of air, even at rest. It is a classic symptom of the beginning of mild heart failure, often ignored until the moment when the body collapses. Another important alert is tingling or numbness in the extremities, especially in the feet and hands. This indicates that the blood is not circulating freely. The peripheral arteries, smaller and thinner, are the first to suffer with the accumulation of oxidized fat. It is common for the senior to feel that the feet are always cold, even on hot days. This is the body saying, the path of the blood is narrow. The swelling in the ankles and legs is another sign of overload. When the blood cannot return to the heart efficiently, it accumulates in the extremities. The body tries to drain the excess of liquid, but the lymphatic system, aged, can no longer cope. This persistent swelling is one of the clearest ways for the body to warn that the circulatory system is in imbalance. The dizziness and blurred vision also appear frequently. With the blood thicker and the arteries more hardened, the brain receives less oxygen. The result is a constant sensation of instability, especially when getting up quickly. In more advanced cases, the senior begins to lose balance, stumbles more, and feels lapses of memory. These are not signs of advanced age. They are signs of low cerebral oxygenation. There are also more subtle, but equally important symptoms. Ringing in the ears caused by oscillating blood pressure. Spots or dots of light in the eyes, result of clogged microvessels. Sensation of sudden heat in the face or neck, when the blood tries to overcome the blockage of the arteries. Night cramps, especially in the calves, indicating poor circulation and accumulation of lactic acid in the muscles. And perhaps the most dangerous sign of all is the malaise after meals. Many seniors believe that digestion becomes slower with age, but the truth is that the blood is diverted to the stomach during digestion, and if the coronary arteries are narrow, the heart lacks oxygen. That sensation of weight, mild nausea, and drowsiness after eating is, often, a pre-symptom of cardiac ischemia, the stage prior to the heart attack. These signs are not coincidences. They are the language of the body trying to alert that something is wrong in the circulation. And the more time soybean oil is part of the routine, the more frequent and intense these signs become. But there is something important. The body also knows how to regenerate itself. If you interrupt the cycle of inflammation, it begins to clean the blood, open space in the arteries, and restore the natural balance. It is not a miraculous change. It is a biological recovery, made of simple and constant choices. In the next few minutes, I will show you how to reverse this process naturally and safely, without dangerous remedies or extreme diets. You will understand which oils really help the heart, which foods clean the arteries, and how to start, still today, a progressive reversal of the inflammation caused by soybean oil. The heart is a generous organ. It suffers in silence, but heals when it is heard. And now that you know how to read the signs, the next step is to act. How to reverse the damage. What to do to de-inflame the arteries and protect the heart. The human body has a silent intelligence. It always tries to heal itself, even after years of bad habits. And the heart, however punished it may be, responds quickly when it receives the right care. There is no miraculous formula, but there is physiology. When you understand what the body needs, the regeneration process begins naturally. And for those who have already passed 60, this regeneration does not depend on strength. It depends on rhythm, constancy, and respect for one's own time. The first step is to eliminate soybean oil from all possible routines. This may seem simple, but it is the most decisive point of all. Read labels, observe ingredients, avoid margarine, mayonnaise, and industrialized foods. Soybean oil hides in almost everything. Ready-made sauces, cookies, cakes, salad dressings, whole wheat breads, even in canned goods. The secret is to replace it with stable and anti-inflammatory oils, which the body recognizes and metabolizes easily. The best are extra virgin olive oil, preferably consumed raw. Coconut oil, excellent for cooking, as it resists heat well. Natural fat from the food itself, such as that of fish or lean meat. These food sources help the liver to produce healthy bile and reduce the levels of inflammation in a few weeks. The second step is to increase the intake of natural antioxidants. They are the biological weapon of the body against the aging of the arteries. The main ones are in the fruits and vegetables of vivid colors: purple grape, blueberry, pomegranate, turmeric, beetroot, spinach, and broccoli. These foods clean the blood by neutralizing free radicals, those molecules that soybean oil leaves behind. Those who consume these vegetables daily perceive in a few weeks an improvement in disposition, digestion, and even in memory. This is not a coincidence. It is the circulation returning to flow. The third step is to control sugar and refined wheat. They are silent accomplices of soybean oil. When excess sugar circulates in the blood, it unites with the oxidized fats and creates compounds called advanced glycation end products. These compounds damage the endothelium, the wall of the arteries, and make the blood thicker. Eliminating sweets, soft drinks, industrialized juices, and white breads is one of the most effective ways to de-inflame the cardiovascular system. The fourth step is to replenish the nutrients that the body loses over time. After 60, the organism produces less coenzyme Q10, magnesium, and vitamin K2, 3 essential substances for the health of the heart and arteries. CoQ10 helps the heart to produce energy. Magnesium relaxes the vessels and controls the pressure. And vitamin K2 prevents calcium from depositing in the arteries, avoiding vascular hardening. These nutrients can be obtained naturally through foods such as fatty fish, avocado, nuts, kale, and eggs, or with medical guidance through controlled supplementation. The fifth step is to move the body every day lightly. Exercise is not only for burning calories, it is for teaching the blood to circulate again. A walk of 20 minutes, a light climb of stairs, even daily stretches make the body release nitric oxide, dilate the vessels, and clean the blood. It is the physical movement returning the elasticity that time took away. But there is an even more important step: deep rest. The aging heart needs sleep. It is during sleep that the body regulates the pressure, repairs tissues, and reduces inflammation. Sleeping between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. is a silent treatment that few value, but that has a direct impact on arterial health. Without rest, there is no possible regeneration. And finally, the step that sustains all the others: constant hydration. The blood is 83% water. If it is thick, the heart works double. Drinking water in small quantities throughout the day keeps the blood light, facilitates the transport of nutrients, and reduces the risk of coagulation. Avoid concentrated juices, soft drinks, and sugary drinks. They dehydrate and inflame the body even more. When these pillars align, clean eating, antioxidants, nutrients, movement, sleep, and hydration, the body begins to detoxify naturally. The arteries open, the blood renews, the pressure stabilizes, and the heart, which previously suffered in silence, returns to beat lightly. In the next few minutes, I will show you how to transform all this into a practical routine with a simple and safe daily protocol, created for those who have already passed 60 and want to protect the heart without depending on radical diets or excessive medications. A step-by-step that anyone can follow, and that can be the watershed between inflammation and vitality. Dr. Richard Hale's daily protocol for clean arteries and strong heart after 60 longevity does not depend on luck. It depends on routine. And the heart, more than any other organ, lives on predictable and consistent habits. When you feed it with balance, it responds with strength. When you overload it with exaggerations, it gets tired. That is why, after decades of study and medical practice with elderly patients, I developed a simple daily protocol which serves as a map to restore circulation and keep the arteries clean without unnecessary medications. Upon waking, reactivate the circulation smoothly. Before any coffee or meal, drink a large glass of warm water with a few drops of fresh lemon. The warm water relaxes the digestive system and awakens the liver, while the lemon stimulates the release of bile and helps the body to eliminate oxidized residues. Then, take deep breaths for 2 minutes, inhaling through the nose and exhaling slowly through the mouth. This simple practice increases the flow of oxygen and improves the flexibility of the vessels. Avoid black coffee on an empty stomach. It increases cortisol and can raise the pressure first thing in the morning. Breakfast. Feed the heart, not the pressure. Breakfast should contain light protein, good fat, and fiber. An ideal combination is boiled or scrambled egg with extra virgin olive oil, oat flakes, and red fruits. Avoid margarine, industrialized cold cuts, white breads, and mainly any food fried in vegetable oil. Replace common milk with natural vegetable versions, such as oat milk or almonds, without the addition of soy. These small exchanges reduce the inflammation in the blood by up to 30% after a few weeks. Lunch. The most important meal for the arteries. Make lunch the most balanced moment of the day. Half of the plate should be composed of varied and colorful vegetables, raw or lightly cooked. Include a moderate portion of brown rice, sweet potato or lentils, and a lean protein, fish, chicken, or eggs. Use extra virgin olive oil as seasoning, never soybean oil. Avoid ready-made sauces, mayonnaises, and fried foods. If possible, walk for 10 minutes after eating. This small habit helps the blood to circulate and reduces the post-meal glucose peak. Afternoon, feeding of the brain and the heart. In the middle of the afternoon, instead of coffee and cookies, prefer a handful of nuts, chestnuts, or almonds, accompanied by warm green tea or chamomile infusion. These foods contain anti-inflammatory and antioxidant compounds that clean the arteries and reduce platelet aggregation, preventing clots. Avoid strong diuretic teas, such as hibiscus. They overload the liver and dehydrate the blood. Dinner. Time to spare the heart. At night, the metabolism slows down and the liver enters repair mode. Therefore, keep dinner light and anti-inflammatory. Vegetable soups, broths with olive oil, and small portions of light proteins, such as fish or eggs, are ideal. Avoid red meat and fried foods at this time. The body needs to rest, not digest heavy foods. A light meal at night helps the blood to remain fluid during sleep and avoids cardiac overload. Before sleeping, the ritual of the tranquil heart. 1 hour before sleeping, turn off the screens and reduce the lights of the house. The body interprets the light as a sign of alert, and this keeps the